With a stolen shovel, she dug a hole, deep, wide, ruthless. She covered it neatly with leaves and soft dust, as if it were never touched. The trap was set. By mid-morning, the scream of a grown man and his son echoed through the farmland. Birds scattered into the sky. People came running, but before they arrived, Adaku stood at the edge of the hole, arms crossed, and with a voice as calm as death, she said, "Touch my twin sister again, and your whole family will be in danger next time." Then she turned and walked away, barefoot, fearless, and unapologetic. In the quiet heart of Omigwe village, where the trees sway gently to the songs of the wind, a young couple lived in silent longing. Obinna, tall and striking, with a jawline sharp enough to cut pride, and Ngozi, graceful like a river goddess, her almond-shaped eyes always carrying a soft sadness, were the kind of couple people admired from afar. Beautiful, blessed, but empty in one way. They had been married for years, yet their home remained childless. At first, they waited with hope. Then came the hospital visits, long, expensive tests with no answers. Then visited prophets, imams, and even herbalists, but nothing worked. Whispers began to grow around them like weeds, until one morning, with a bowed head and a heavy heart, Obinna's grandfather, his eyes clouded with age, but mind sharp like a spear, called them close and said only one thing: "Follow me. We're going to Oba Allah, a village where all your sires will be answered." Without delay, Obinna and his wife followed him. Oba Allah village was nothing like Omigwe. It was older, darker, untouched by time. The trees there didn't just grow, they watched. The wind didn't just blow, it whispered. And deep within that haunted stillness lived an ancient herbalist, his skin wrinkled like folded leather, his eyes clouded white, but still burning with secrets no man should carry. No one knew his real age. Some said he had seen kingdoms rise and fall. Others claimed he had no shadow. He welcomed Obinna and Ngozi in silence, studying their beautiful, desperate faces with a gaze that pierced through soul and skin. Then finally he spoke, not loud, but deep, like thunder buried underground. "There may be consequences from taking a child of the devil." His warning hung heavy in the air, but longing is louder than fear. Without hesitation, they agreed. That night, under a swollen moon, the ritual began. At a T-junction where three paths met like a crossroad between worlds, the herbalist dug deep into the red earth. A calabash, carved with ancient marks and filled with strange black liquid, was placed inside. He chanted in tongues long forgotten. Ngozi's hands trembled. Obinna's heart pounded like drums in a war camp. When the calabash was buried, the earth was sealed with the blood gotten from an owl and ash. Exactly 1 month later, Ngozi awoke with morning sickness. She was with child. 9 moons passed, each one heavier than the last. Ngozi, once slender and graceful, now moved like a goddess bearing worlds. Her skin glowed with mystery, her beauty deepened by the sacred weight of what grew inside her. Obinna stayed close, his once joyful eyes now sharpened by anticipation and fear. And then, on a night when the clouds hid the moon and the wind refused to sing, the cry of life broke through the walls of their small home. Twin daughters were born. The first came out fists clenched with a fierce energy in her wails. They tied a red ribbon around her soft curls and named her Adaku, meaning the one who came with wealth. The second followed silently, her fingers relaxed, her eyes wide and calm. They tied a white ribbon around her head and named her Adai, meaning daughter of a king. So alike were their faces, skin smooth as moonlight, lashes long and curled, lips like tiny rosebuds, that without the ribbons, even Ngozi would pause in confusion. From the moment they could walk, the difference between the twins became impossible to ignore. Adaku, always in her red hair tie, moved like a storm in a calm village. She was wild, curious, and loud. Her laughter often echoed before chaos followed. Chickens let loose, clay pots shattered, neighbors shouting her name in frustration. At just 5 years old, she developed a strange habit. She would vanish. For 3 days, no trace, no note, no footprints. Then, like a breeze returning from nowhere, she'd stroll back home, dust on her feet, a leaf in her hair, and a smile so calm it sent chills down Ngozi's spine. As if nothing had happened, as if she was in control all along. Meanwhile, Adaeze, always in her white ribbon, was the village's gentle star, especially at school, brilliant beyond her years. Her quiet nature was not out of fear, but deep thought. The villagers adored her. They called her Nwamiri, child of the water, for her calm presence and soft voice. But the older Obina and Ngozi grew, the more uneasy they became. These were not normal children, one too restless for this world, the other too wise for her age. And in quiet moments, the memory of the herbalist's warning would return like an echo carried by wind. There may be consequences. Now, they were beginning to see what he meant. At 18, Adai had blossomed into the kind of beauty that made time pause. Her skin was smooth like polished bronze, her eyes soft and steady like the evening tide. She carried herself with grace, always wrapped in simple fabrics that only made her elegance shine brighter. That morning, the sun stretched lazily over Omigwe village, and Adai made her way to the village stream. Balancing a clay pot on her head, she stepped barefoot across smooth stones, minding her path, humming softly. But peace, as always, had its enemies. Waiting by the stream were two familiar figures: Obiora, the village chief's only son, and his sly companion, Chinedu. Both handsome in their own right, with toned bodies and charming faces, but behind their good looks hid pride, cruelty, and boredom. They watched Ada's approach. To them, she was the quiet, smart girl who thought she was better than everyone else. As she bent to fill her pot, they made their move. Chinedu kicked her into the stream, laughing like a child who'd broken his toy. Obiora scooped up a handful of sand and let it fall into her freshly drawn water. They mocked her, called her names. Adaeze bursted into tears, her clothes wet, her white ribbon fluttering in the wind as she hurriedly ran home. When Obina and Ngozi heard it, they only apologized to Adaeze since Obina works in the chief's mansion, afraid of losing his job. They also pleaded to her not to tell Adaku because they are not sure what she'll do. However, Adaku was at the back of the door, listening to them. Heard what happened at the stream. Her smile returned, but this time it was cold. That kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes. The kind that meant something terrible was about to happen. She never liked to see her twin cry. She waited for the village to sleep. The moon hung high, casting silver light over the silent farms. Dressed in black, her red ribbon tied tight like a warrior's band, Adaku slipped into the bush path where Chinedu and his father usually passed on their way from the farm. With a stolen shovel, she dug a hole. Deep, wide, ruthless. Then she filled the hole with broken bottles, rusted tin, and thorns sharpened by fire. Finally, she covered it neatly with leaves and soft dust, as if it were never touched. The trap was set. By mid-morning, the scream of a grown man and his son echoed through the farmland. Birds scattered into the sky. People came running, but before they arrived, Adaku stood at the edge of the hole, arms crossed, and with a voice as calm as death, she said, "Touch my twin sister again, and your whole family will be in danger next time." Then she turned and walked away, barefoot, fearless, and unapologetic. When the people got there, they saw Chinedu and his father fallen deep into the hidden pit, limbs scratched, skin pierced, blood dripping like warnings onto the red soil. Panic spread. Some said it was a curse. Others blamed the gods. Adaku never struck twice without a plan. Chinedu had been handled. Now it was Obiora's turn. She knew his weakness, vanity and hunting. Obiora prided himself on being the best hunter in the village. He bragged about it, flaunted it, lived for it, so she used it against him. Before anyone could warn him that same morning, Adaku released a white rabbit into the forest path behind the chief's mansion fence. As expected, Obiora saw it while strolling with two of his father's workers. Without thinking, he gave chase, bow in hand, calling it his prize. As Obiora crossed a clearing, his foot snapped a hidden trap, piercing his leg. Screams tore through the trees as he crashed to the ground, tangled and bleeding. The workers with him froze. One ran, the other shouted. Within minutes, word spread like wildfire. But Adaku, she sat quietly by the stream, dipping her feet in the water. Her red ribbon fluttered in the breeze, her eyes calm, her mission complete. Chaos had arrived, and this was only the beginning. The village was in uproar. Obiora's injury became a royal scandal. Whispers turned to accusations, and all fingers, though silent, pointed toward the family that had always walked too quietly. The family with twin daughters no one could fully understand. In anger and shame, Chief Ikin sacked Obina. Obina now stood jobless under the same sun he had served beneath for years. With what little savings he had left, he paid hospital bills, not for his own family, but for a boy his daughter had injured. In the midst of this storm, Adaeze had sat for her promotion exams and topped the entire district, scoring perfectly across all subjects. The results reached the ears of a city-based foundation, and just like that, a letter arrived. Full scholarship awarded to Miss Adaeze Obina for admission into Queen Margaret Memorial Academy, a prestigious secondary school in the heart of the city. A school for the elite, a place where futures were shaped. Adaku watched closely. She couldn't care less, but was proud of her sister, and if anyone dared hurt her again, they would know what it truly meant to awaken a devil's child. Then, Obina decided to Omigwe village with Adaeze, carrying just one bag and the hope that city life would offer more than village politics ever could. They journeyed to Okota City, a place where dreams and struggles lived side by side. He rented a mini room in the city and found work as a gateman in a middle-class estate and would return home only on weekends. Queen Margaret Memorial Academy was not just a school, it was a kingdom. Its gates were tall, its walls painted white like pride, and its hallways echoed with the footsteps of children born with golden spoons. Here, names mattered. Wealth spoke louder than wisdom, and the poor were often seen but never respected. Into this world walked Adai, humble, quiet, dressed simply, her white ribbon a lone badge of honor. But what she lacked in status, she made up for with brilliance. In her very first test, she scored higher than every student in her class, including the ones whose parents donated buildings and paid for private tutors. At the top of that cold mountain sat Gloria, beautiful, feared, and cruel. She was the commissioner's only daughter, and she wore that privilege like a crown of thorns. Beside her stood Linda and Ngo, her loyal shadows, and behind them loomed their boyfriends, boys who strutted through the school like kings without thrones. Together, they ruled the campus with sarcasm, designer bags, and digital venom. Adaeze's success became a threat. Only one person reached out to Adaeze, Anita, a soft-spoken girl with tired eyes and a limp in her smile. One afternoon, as they sat under a mango tree, Anita leaned in and whispered, "Please, don't be the best. I once was, and they ruined my life." Adai didn't understand what she meant, and when the end of term results were released, Adai topped the class again. This time, not by a little, but by a landslide. The reaction was immediate. First came the superglue, smudged neatly across her chair. She stood up with half her skirt still stuck to the seat. The class laughed. Phones recorded. Then came the ink, spilled all over her locker, dripping down her books like blood. Her name scribbled beside it. "Village rats don't belong here." The next day, her notebooks were gone, found hours later, burned in the back of the school garden. When she spoke up, no teacher listened. When she cried, no prefect cared. Then came the push, a shove against the corridor wall, followed by laughter from the girls behind her. They circled her in the bathroom once, left a dead rat in her school bag. They called her poor girl. They called her village rat. And they made sure everyone else joined in. Still, Adaeze tried to endure. Still, she said nothing to her father. Obinna worked harder than ever, unaware that his daughter carried battles in silence. On weekends, he returned home with tired feet and hopeful eyes, asking, "How was school today?" And every time, Adaeze smiled and said, "Fine, Papa." But it was a lie stitched together with love. Her bruises were hidden, her pain, buried deep beneath neat uniforms and top grades. But pain has a way of slipping through the cracks. When Ngozi and Adaku visited from the village, Adaku found out the truth. She's the only person Adai could tell. Then Adaku smiled, not with joy, but with that dark, knowing smile, the one that had always come before something dangerous. She leaned closer, her red ribbon glinting. "Don't worry," she whispered. "I have a plan. I'll do evil for a good cause." When Adaku and Ngozi returned to the village, Adaku ran away again. But this time, it wasn't for mischief or madness, it was for war. With nothing but a backpack, her red ribbon, and a fire burning in her chest, she boarded a bus to the city, straight to Adaeze. When her twin opened the door, shocked and speechless, Adaku hugged her tightly, then calmly said, "Let me handle the school." At first, Adaeze refused, but Adaku had her ways. Her voice was convincing, her eyes sharp, and her spirit unstoppable. They switched places, and for the next few days, Adaku observed. She studied everything: how the school functioned, who the teachers respected, where the bullies hid, who the prefects feared, and where the weak spots were, calculating every step. She wasn't just brave, she was brilliant in a way that felt dangerous, far more cunning than any student, far more ruthless than any teacher. Adai may have been the quiet genius, but now they will be dealing with Adaku, the demon twin. The sun rose slowly over Queen Margaret Memorial Academy, casting golden light on polished floors, designer backpacks, and secrets dressed in school uniforms. But today, something felt different. Adaku, now posing as Adaeze, stepped through the school gates, uniform ironed to perfection. She was a confident, deliberate stride, like a lioness in borrowed skin. Behind painted smiles, the bullies were waiting, and they had prepared a welcome. Gloria and her gang, Linda, Nyo, and the ever-hovering boyfriends, huddled near the lockers, whispering, laughing, holding up their phones. A bucket of dirty water, perched carefully above Adaeze's locker, waited to drop the moment she opened it. She did, and it did. Filthy water splashed over her pristine uniform, dripped down her back, soaked her books. Gasps filled the hallway. Phones were raised, record buttons tapped. The girls giggled, waiting for the tears, the shame, the retreat. But what they got instead was something else. Adaku laughed, not shyly, not nervously. She threw her head back and laughed boldly, a deep, confident sound that bounced off the walls like thunder. The hall fell silent. For the first time, the bullies felt something unfamiliar. It wasn't victory, it was fear.